Hello, and welcome to another gentle journey on Sleepy Professor Stories. You are arriving in a quiet place where curiosity moves slowly and nothing is demanded of you. Tonight is not about solving riddles or reaching conclusions. It is about wandering softly through traces left behind by people who lived, observed, and wondered long before us, and allowing those traces to drift through your thoughts like distant lights. Ancient mysteries appear here, not as challenges, but as calm companions. Stone circles resting in fields, symbols etched into walls, cities softened by time, and questions that never needed final answers. These remnants remind you that human curiosity has always existed alongside patience, silence, and care. You can listen without effort, and you can let meaning pass without holding onto it. As this journey unfolds, you may notice facts arriving gently, then fading again. You do not need to remember names or details. Your mind can simply follow the feeling of discovery, the steady rhythm of observation, the sense of standing quietly at the edge of deep time. If these slow explorations bring you comfort, you are welcome to like or subscribe, helping others find their way into this calm space. There is no rush and no obligation. Even that thought can drift away if it wishes. For now, allow your breathing to slow. Let your shoulders soften, your jaw loosen, and your eyes rest comfortably. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go, and nothing you need to understand. You are safe to listen or to sleep. Let's begin. You find yourself standing at the edge of something very old, where the ground feels steady and patient beneath you. Here, stones rest exactly where human hands once placed them, long before writing, long before measured calendars, long before history learned how to speak in sentences. These stones do not explain themselves. They simply remain, carrying the quiet weight of intention across vast stretches of time. In many parts of the world, people began arranging stones with care thousands of years ago. Some were stacked, some were aligned, some were placed in wide circles that seemed to breathe with the landscape. These arrangements required planning, cooperation, and repeated effort. Moving heavy stone without metal tools demanded knowledge of balance, leverage, and patience. Even without written language, early communities understood how weight behaves, how friction slows motion, and how small adjustments create stability. You can imagine hands testing each placement, feeling when a stone finally rests just right. As you linger with this thought, notice how meaning does not always need explanation. These stones may have marked gatherings, seasons, or shared rituals. They may have helped people remember where they belonged within the land and sky. Archaeology shows that humans often returned to the same sites again and again, adding stones slowly over generations. This suggests continuity rather than urgency. No single moment mattered more than the quiet process itself. Stone endures because of its structure. Minerals lock together in repeating patterns, forming materials strong enough to resist weather for millennia. Rain softens edges, wind smooths surfaces, and temperature changes cause slow expansion and contraction. Yet many of these ancient stones still stand. Their survival is not accidental. It reflects careful selection of material and placement, showing that early people observed how nature behaves and worked alongside it rather than against it. You do not need to solve what these places meant. It is enough to notice how humans have always shaped their surroundings gently, responding to gravity, terrain, and time. Standing stones invite stillness. They ask you to slow your thoughts and sense the patience built into the world itself. In some regions, stones were aligned with natural features. Hills, rivers, and horizons became reference points. Early observers noticed repeating patterns in the environment, such as seasonal light changes or shadow lengths. Even without formal measurement systems, people learned through repetition and attention. Over time, knowledge passed quietly through observation and shared experience, not written instruction. When you imagine these early builders, there is no rush in their movements. Tasks unfold over days, months, even lifetimes. This slow rhythm mirrors natural processes. Erosion, growth, and decay all happen gradually. Human activity blended into this pace, leaving marks that feel calm rather than disruptive. There is nothing you need to do as you consider this. Your breathing can remain slow and easy. The stones do not ask for interpretation. They simply exist, reminding you that curiosity once moved at the speed of sunlight and seasons. Across different continents, similar stone traditions emerged independently. This tells us something gentle about the human mind. When people observe the same natural forces, they often arrive at similar solutions. Stone, abundant and reliable, becomes a shared language. Circles, lines, and markers appear again and again, not because of shared plans, but because of shared observation. Gravity behaves the same everywhere, so does patience. These structures also show restraint. Stones were often left unshaped, honoring their natural form. This choice suggests respect for material properties. Instead of forcing stone to change, early builders worked with its existing shape, selecting pieces that already fit their purpose. This approach reflects an intuitive understanding of material science long before formal study existed. As you rest with this idea, the past feels less distant. Human curiosity has always been quiet at its core. Long before theories and texts, people listened to the land. They noticed how sound travels between stones, how wind moves through openings, how shadows shift. Knowledge grew not through urgency, but through attention. You may find your thoughts slowing, like footsteps easing across ancient ground. There is nothing you need to remember. The stones have already done their work. They have carried intention forward, not as answers, but as presence. Even today, when archaeologists study these sites, they move carefully. Each stone's position matters. Small shifts can reveal how structures were built, used, and maintained. This careful observation mirrors the patience of the original builders. Science here is gentle, built on listening rather than forcing conclusions. Some stones show wear from repeated contact, suggesting gathering, sitting, or touching. This tells us that early humans returned often, engaging with these places through habit rather than ceremony alone. Routine creates comfort. Returning to familiar spaces grounds the mind. These stone sites may have offered stability in changing environments. There is something soothing in knowing that humans have always created places of quiet significance. Not everything was built for speed or efficiency. Some things were made simply to exist, to mark presence, to hold memory without words. As you breathe slowly, allow this calm continuity to settle. Your body can soften knowing that time does not rush. Meaning does not demand effort. Stone does not hurry. In the distance of thought, these early arrangements lead naturally toward patterns and shapes repeated across landscapes. Lines and circles begin to appear, guiding the eye gently outward. And as this chapter rests, the stones seem to whisper not answers, but an invitation to notice the quiet geometry that follows. You stand before shapes that feel familiar even before you understand them. Lines stretch calmly across the land. Circles rest without beginning or end. Angles meet with quiet confidence. These forms do not announce themselves, yet your eyes recognize them instantly, as if they belong to a deeper rhythm your mind already knows. Across ancient landscapes, people returned again and again to certain shapes. Straight paths connecting points, stones forming rings, corners aligned with care. This repetition was not about decoration. It reflected observation. Humans noticed that certain arrangements felt stable, balanced, and complete. Geometry emerged not as calculation, but as a language of comfort, shaped by hands that trusted symmetry and proportion. When early builders placed stones in lines or curves, they were responding to how space behaves. A straight line offers direction. A circle creates enclosure without edges. These forms guide movement gently. Archaeological sites show that people often use geometry to organize gathering spaces, pathways, and boundaries. Order made shared spaces easier to understand, easier to return to, and easier to remember. Stone monuments frequently reveal consistent spacing. Distances between stones repeat with care, suggesting deliberate pacing rather than random placement. This shows an intuitive sense of measurement. Without rulers or written units, people relied on the body. Steps, arm spans, and sight lines became tools. The human body itself provided reference, grounding structure in lived experience. As you imagine these builders working, notice the absence of urgency. Alignments were refined slowly. Stones adjusted until shadows fell as expected, until lines felt true. Geometry allowed builders to check their work visually. Parallel lines look right when they feel calm to the eye. Circles feel complete when they close smoothly. These judgments came from attention, not haste. Many ancient monuments align with natural features. A line may point toward a distant hill. A corridor may frame the horizon. These choices reflect awareness of perspective. Builders understood how shapes guide sight, leading the eye gently outward. Geometry became a bridge between human space and the surrounding landscape. You do not need to analyze these choices. Simply noticing them is enough. There is nothing you need to solve. Your breathing can remain slow as these shapes unfold quietly in thought. Across different regions, similar geometric patterns appear. This repetition tells us something about how human perception works. The brain naturally seeks order. It finds calm in balance and symmetry. When early communities shaped their environments, they were also shaping how people felt within those spaces. Geometry offered reassurance through predictability. Circles appear often in ancient structures. From a scientific perspective, the circle distributes forces evenly. Weight presses outward equally, creating stability. Even without formal knowledge of physics, builders sensed this. A circle resists collapse and invites gathering. People standing within a circle face one another naturally, promoting connection without hierarchy. Lines and right angles also appear, especially in later monuments. Straight edges make construction easier to repeat. Angles allow stones to fit together securely. These shapes reduce uncertainty. When surfaces meet cleanly, structures last longer. Geometry becomes a quiet solution to practical challenges, offering durability without complexity. Light plays gently across these forms. As the sun moves, shadows trace predictable paths along edges and curves. Builders noticed this rhythm. Repeating patterns allowed them to anticipate how light would behave across seasons. This awareness did not require formulas. It grew through patient watching, through noticing how morning differs from evening, how winter differs from summer. Your thoughts can slow as you follow these imagined shadows. There is no need to track them precisely. They move whether you watch or not. Geometry also guided sound. Circular spaces reflect voices evenly. Narrow passages focus echoes. Ancient builders may not have known acoustics by name, but they experienced it. Some spaces amplify footsteps or soften speech. Shapes influence how sound travels, creating environments suited for quiet or gathering. Repeated patterns across monuments suggest shared understanding. Knowledge passed through observation rather than instruction. Younger builders learned by watching elders place stones, adjust angles, and check alignment. Geometry became embodied knowledge, carried in movement rather than words. Even imperfections tell a story. Slight deviations in alignment reveal human presence. These structures were not machine-made. They reflect careful effort, are guided by feel rather than strict precision. This softness makes them enduring. Perfect rigidity often fails. Gentle flexibility allows survival. As you rest with this thought, notice how geometry does not demand attention. It supports calm without asking for focus. Lines guide without pulling. Shapes hold space without pressure. Many monuments use repeating units. One stone mirrors another. A distance repeats. Repetition creates rhythm. Rhythm slows the mind. Just as breathing settles into a pattern, so do these structures invite steadiness. There is nothing you need to remember here. Geometry works quietly, whether noticed or not. Modern science studies these sites by measuring angles, distances, and orientations. Tools confirm what early builders sensed intuitively. Patterns align with natural cycles. Proportions remain consistent. These findings do not remove mystery. They simply show how closely humans once listened to their surroundings. Standing among imagined stones, you can feel how geometry bridges time. The same shapes that felt reassuring thousands of years ago still feel stable today. The human nervous system has not changed much. Balance remains calming. Order remains restful. As your awareness softens, lines and curves blur gently together. Geometry fades from form into feeling. And as this chapter quiets, those calm shapes seem to extend outward, hinting at the careful alignments between earth and sky that wait patiently ahead. You begin this part of the journey by imagining a place that was once full of movement, sound, and routine, now resting quietly beneath layers of earth. The idea of a lost city does not arrive with drama here. It arrives softly, like a memory settling back into sleep. Streets once walked daily now lie hidden. Walls once warmed by sunlight now hold the steady coolness of soil and stone. Across the world, cities have disappeared, not through sudden destruction, but through patience. Wind carried grains of sand little by little. Rivers shifted their courses slowly. Forests advanced one root, one leaf at a time. The science of landscapes tells us that change rarely rushes. Erosion works gently, guided by gravity, water, and time. Human structures, no matter how carefully built, eventually join this rhythm. In dry regions, deserts expand and contract with climate patterns that unfold over centuries. Sand moves as wind flows across open ground, piling against walls and filling empty spaces. When people leave, even briefly, these processes continue without interruption. Buildings become obstacles that slow airflow, allowing sand to settle. Over time, entire neighborhoods can sink quietly beneath the surface, preserved rather than erased. In wetter environments, plants do the reclaiming. Seeds fall into cracks. Roots grow where moisture lingers. Stone holds warmth and water just long enough for life to take hold. As roots expand, they widen fractures, allowing more soil to gather. This is not aggression. It is growth responding to opportunity. The city becomes part of the ecosystem, its materials recycled into living systems. You do not need to picture collapse or chaos. Most lost cities fade. Roofs decay, walls lower, and floors fill gradually. The process is slow enough that no single generation witnesses the full transformation. Archaeology shows that many places were abandoned calmly, sometimes relocated nearby as conditions changed. The land did not take suddenly. It waited. From a scientific perspective, this patience is driven by energy balance. Maintaining a city requires constant input. Water systems, roads, and buildings need care. When human energy withdraws, natural systems resume their baseline state. Entropy gently increases. Structures move toward equilibrium with their surroundings. Nothing dramatic needs to happen. As you breathe, you may notice how this idea feels restful. There is nothing urgent about being reclaimed by time. The earth does not hurry. Some cities were covered intentionally. Floodplains offered fertile soil, but also periodic burial. Sediment carried by water settles in layers, each one thin, each one quiet. Over generations, streets sink beneath deposits laid down by seasonal floods. These layers preserve details with remarkable care, sealing objects away from air and light. In jungles, humidity and warmth accelerate change. Microorganisms break down organic materials quickly. Stone remains longer, but even stone wears down under constant moisture. Lichen grows slowly across surfaces, its acids softening mineral bonds. What looks solid yields gently, almost imperceptibly. There is nothing you need to remember about these processes. They continue whether noticed or not. When modern researchers uncover lost cities, they often find everyday items exactly where they were left. Tools, pottery, and pathways remain in place, suggesting unhurried departure. These discoveries remind us that disappearance does not always mean disaster. Sometimes it means adaptation. Communities move. The land remains. The science of soil layers tells stories without words. Deeper layers hold older moments. Shallower layers mark more recent change. By reading these layers, scientists understand timelines that stretch far beyond a single life. Cities become chapters in a much longer book written by climate, geology, and biology together. Your thoughts can drift like sand across stone as you imagine this slow layering. There is nothing you need to solve. Even underwater, cities rest quietly. Coastlines shift as sea levels rise and fall. Land once dry becomes submerged. Structures adapt to pressure and darkness. In low oxygen conditions, materials decay more slowly. Water cushions rather than crushes. These submerged cities wait calmly, holding their shapes in silence. Lost cities teach us something gentle about permanence. Human presence is temporary, but not meaningless. Structures influence soil composition, roads alter drainage, foundations shape root growth. Even when hidden, cities continue to affect the land around them. This blending is not erasure, it is integration. As you imagine these spaces, you may feel your own sense of time stretching. Days feel smaller, centuries feel closer. The Earth measures differently than we do. There is nothing you need to do with this feeling. You can let it pass through you like a slow breath. Archaeologists move carefully through these spaces, aware that excavation is a brief interruption. Once exposed, materials face air, light, and temperature changes again. Preservation becomes a balance between discovery and respect. Even in study, patience remains essential. Many lost cities were never truly forgotten by the land. Subtle changes in vegetation, soil color, or terrain often mark their presence. Nature remembers patterns even when humans do not. As your breathing settles, imagine walking above a city you cannot see. The ground feels ordinary, yet beneath it, walls trace familiar shapes. Streets curve gently. Life once unfolded there, calmly and completely. The Earth does not judge what was built. It simply absorbs, reshapes, and carries forward. This chapter rests in that understanding. Cities vanish not because they fail, but because time continues. And as these hidden spaces fade into stillness, the mind begins to wonder about the quiet messages left behind, carved and marked, waiting softly in stone and symbol just ahead. You enter this chapter slowly, as though stepping into a place where language itself has grown quiet. Around you are marks made by human hands long ago, pressed, carved, painted, or etched into stone. They do not speak in sentences. They do not explain themselves. They remain simply as presence, carrying intention without demanding interpretation. Across ancient landscapes, people left symbols before they left words. Lines, spirals, handprints, animals, repeated shapes. These markings appear in caves, on standing stones, along pathways, and on the walls of long-abandoned settlements. From a scientific perspective, symbols emerge wherever humans seek to record experience beyond memory. They are traces of cognition, shaped by perception rather than grammar. Stone becomes the canvas because it lasts. Minerals resist decay. Even when surfaces weather, deeper carvings remain. Early humans understood this through observation. Soft materials fade quickly. Stone holds form. By choosing stone, they extended thought beyond a single lifetime, allowing meaning to travel forward without movement. You do not need to know what each symbol meant. Many meanings remain uncertain, debated, or layered. Archaeology often reveals patterns rather than translations. Repetition matters more than definition. When a mark appears again and again across distances and generations, it suggests shared recognition. A symbol becomes familiar even when its meaning shifts. Some carvings follow natural contours. Lines curve with the rock rather than cutting against it. This choice reflects attention to material properties. Stone fractures along certain planes. Working with these structures requires patience and sensitivity. The hand learns where pressure holds and where it releases. The symbol making becomes a dialogue between intention and resistance. As you imagine this process, notice how slow it feels. Carving stone takes time. Each movement is deliberate. There is no rush. Mistakes cannot be easily undone. This slowness encourages focus, repetition, and calm. Symbol making becomes almost meditative, grounded in rhythm and touch. There is nothing you need to decipher here. Your breathing can remain steady as the marks rest quietly in thought. In some places, symbols cluster. Groups of carvings appear together, suggesting shared spaces of attention. These may have been gathering points, teaching places, or markers of memory. Science cannot always confirm purpose, but spatial patterns offer clues. Humans tend to return to meaningful locations. Symbols anchor memory to place. Scripts appear later, evolving from simpler marks. Early writing systems often begin as pictorial representations. Over time, these images become abstracted, streamlined for efficiency. This process reflects cognitive adaptation. The brain seeks patterns that reduce effort while preserving meaning. Writing becomes a technology of compression. Many ancient scripts remain undeciphered, not because they lack meaning, but because context has faded. Language depends on shared understanding. When cultures disappear or transform, that shared reference dissolves. Symbols remain, but their voices soften. This softening does not erase their impact. Even without translation, symbols convey intention. A repeated spiral suggests movement. Parallel lines suggest order. Handprints suggest presence. These impressions communicate across time without explanation. Yet the stone also records process. Tool marks reveal how symbols were made. Scratches, grooves, and polish indicate technique. Scientists study these traces to understand motion, force, and tool material. The act of making becomes visible long after the maker is gone. As your thoughts slow, you may feel how gentle this knowledge is. It asks nothing of you. Some symbols align with natural features. A carving may face sunrise or follow a rock's natural edge. This suggests awareness of environment. Symbol placement becomes part of landscape design, integrating human expression with natural form. Over time, symbols accumulate layers. New marks appear beside old ones. Meanings overlap. This layering reflects cultural continuity. Each generation adds without erasing, allowing symbols to adapt rather than freeze. From a scientific perspective, this reflects how memory works. The brain layers new information onto existing frameworks. Culture behaves similarly. Symbols evolve not by replacement, but by addition. There is nothing you need to hold on to here. You can let each idea pass like a shadow across stone. Some markings were never meant to be permanent. Pigments fade faster than carvings. This suggests that not all symbols aimed for endurance. Some were momentary, perhaps tied to seasons, events, or rituals. Their disappearance is not failure. It is completion. When modern researchers encounter these spaces, they move carefully. Touch alters surfaces. Breath introduces moisture. Light accelerates change. Preservation becomes an act of restraint. Observation replaces intervention. The symbols ask to be seen, not used. You may notice how restful this feels. Knowledge without urgency, meaning without demand. Symbols also reflect sensory awareness. Many carvings appear at heights comfortable for the hand. Others follow sightlines naturally encountered while walking. This suggests embodied design. Symbols were made to be met naturally, not searched for. Across continents, humans independently created symbolic systems. This convergence reveals something fundamental. The human mind seeks to externalize thought. Symbols extend awareness beyond the present moment. They allow communication without voice. As your breathing settles, imagine standing before a wall of markings. You do not try to read them, you simply acknowledge them. They remain calm, complete in their existence. Stone holds silence well. It absorbs sound. It cools the air. It slows movement. Symbols carved into stone inherit this stillness. They become part of the quiet. Even undeciphered scripts offer structure. Lines align, characters repeat, patterns emerge. Science recognizes pattern recognition as a core cognitive process. The brain relaxes when order appears, even without meaning attached. There is nothing you need to solve. As this chapter begins to rest, the symbols do not fade. They remain present, like thoughts half remembered. And somewhere ahead, these quiet marks begin to align with larger patterns, hinting gently at how stone and symbol turn toward sky, shadow, and the slow movement of light beyond. You lift your awareness upward, gently, as though your thoughts are learning to follow the slow movement of light across the land. Above you, the sky does not rush. It turns with steady patience, offering patterns that repeat again and again. Long before clocks or calendars, people watched these movements carefully, not with urgency, but with trust that the sky would always return to familiar places. Ancient builders noticed how the sun rises and sets along the horizon, shifting its position slightly each day. Over many seasons, these small changes formed a rhythm. The longest days arrived gently, then slowly receded. The shortest days passed and light returned. By observing this cycle, people learned when warmth would come, when cold would linger, and when growth would begin again. This knowledge did not require numbers. It lived in memory and repetition. Stone monuments often reflect this careful watching. Some openings frame the sunrise on particular days. Others align with the sun's lowest or highest path. These alignments reveal long-term observation. No single sunrise reveals the pattern. Only patience does. Builders returned again and again, watching where light fell, adjusting placements until stone and sky spoke quietly to one another. Shadows played an important role. As the sun moves, shadows lengthen and shorten in predictable ways. Early observers noticed how a standing stone casts a shadow that changes direction throughout the day. By marking these changes, people could track time's passage without instruments. The shadow becomes a gentle clock, moving steadily, never hurrying. You can imagine standing near such a stone, feeling the warmth of sunlight shift across your skin. There is nothing you need to calculate. The body senses change naturally. Morning feels different from evening. Our summer light feels different from winter light. Ancient builders trusted these sensations, letting experience guide structure. Some monuments align not only with the sun, but with the horizon itself. Hills, valleys, and distant peaks become reference points. When the sun rises behind a familiar shape, it marks a moment that repeats each year. These landmarks anchor time to place, weaving sky and land into a single system of understanding. This approach reflects an early form of observational science. Patterns are noticed, tested, and confirmed through repetition. If light returns to the same point year after year, confidence grows. Structures become records of these confirmations, holding knowledge steady across generations. There is no pressure here. The sky does not change quickly. If you miss a moment, another will come. This reliability is comforting. Predictability creates calm. Many ancient monuments also reflect awareness of seasonal balance. Light and darkness alternate in steady proportion. Builders noticed when day and night share equal length. These moments mark transitions rather than extremes. They signal balance, offering reassurance that cycles remain intact. From a scientific perspective, these observations relate to Earth's steady tilt and orbit. These movements remain consistent over long periods. Ancient people did not need to know the mechanics. They only needed to notice the results. Knowledge built slowly, layered gently, never forced. You may feel your breathing slow as you imagine these long observations. There is nothing you need to do but listen. Stone was chosen carefully for these alignments. Durable materials ensure that positions remain fixed. A wooden marker decays. Stone holds steady. By fixing reference points in stone, builders preserved observations far beyond a single lifetime. Light interacts differently with stone than with softer materials. Stone absorbs heat during the day and releases it slowly at night. This creates subtle temperature differences around monuments. Early people likely noticed this effect, associating stone structures with warmth after sunset. These sensory experiences reinforced the connection between monument and sky. Some alignments focus not on a single moment, but on ranges. Corridors may frame the sun's path over several days. This accommodates natural variation and observational uncertainty. Precision exists, but it is gentle, allowing flexibility rather than rigidity. There is comfort in this softness. Nature does not require perfection. It responds to attention. In addition to the sun, ancient builders watched the moon's cycles. Its phases repeat reliably, offering another rhythm layered atop the sun's slower pattern. While not all monuments align with lunar movement, the awareness of cyclical light deepened understanding of time's texture. Light itself becomes a material in these spaces. Sunbeams enter chambers briefly, illuminating walls or floors before fading. These moments are quiet and temporary. They remind observers that time passes, but returns. You do not need to hold on to these images. They can drift gently through your thoughts. The predictability of the sky likely offered emotional reassurance. In uncertain environments, knowing that light would return brought stability. Aligning monuments with the sun transformed this reassurance into shared experience. Communities gathered, witnessed the same light, and felt time together. From a modern perspective, studying these alignments confirms the accuracy of ancient observation. Measurements reveal consistent orientations. These findings do not diminish wonder. They deepen respect for patient attention. As your awareness softens, imagine standing in a stone passageway as light slowly advances. Dust motes drift. The air feels cool. The moment arrives, then passes. No one rushes to capture it. It simply happens. There is nothing you need to remember. The sky continues its motion whether observed or not. Yet these monuments remind us that humans once chose to watch carefully. They built reminders not to control time, but to notice it. This noticing becomes a form of rest. When time feels predictable, the mind relaxes. As this chapter settles, the light begins to fade from stone surfaces. Shadows stretch longer, blending shapes together. And as the sun lowers, attention turns naturally toward the enduring presence of earthbound stone, waiting quietly to be shaped and balanced once more. You come to rest beside stones so large, they seem to quiet the space around them. They do not rise with drama, they simply remain. Their presence feels steady, as if they have been waiting without impatience for as long as anyone can remember. These megaliths do not suggest speed or ambition. They suggest endurance. Megaliths are stones moved and placed by human effort alone, long before machines or metal tools existed. And their size required planning that extended beyond a single day or even a single year. People observed the land, chose routes, tested ground, and prepared surfaces slowly. Weight behaves predictably, and early builders learned this through repeated experience. A heavy stone moves only when force is applied patiently and evenly. The science of balance plays quietly here. A stone rests securely when its center of mass sits low and wide. Builders understood this without formulas. They learned by feel. If a stone wobbled, it was adjusted. If it settled firmly, it stayed. This process may have taken many attempts, each one slow and careful. Stability mattered more than speed. As you imagine this work, there is no strain in the picture. Movements are measured. Groups coordinate through shared rhythm. When many people pull together, your force becomes manageable. This cooperation reflects social understanding as much as physical knowledge. The stone moves only when effort aligns. There is nothing you need to do while considering this. Your breathing can remain gentle, matching the imagined pace of work. Megaliths often stand where the ground itself offers support. Builders chose solid foundations, understanding that soil shifts while bedrock holds. This awareness shows early geological observation. Even without naming rock types, people recognized which surfaces resisted sinking and which yielded under pressure. Time works alongside these stones. Weather smooths edges. Temperature causes slow expansion and contraction. Yet many megaliths remain upright after thousands of years. Their survival is not accidental. It reflects careful placement that distributes stress evenly. A well-balanced stone resists collapse because forces cancel rather than concentrate. Some megaliths appear alone, others form lines or groups. Their arrangements vary across regions, yet they share a common quality of restraint. Stones are rarely carved extensively. Their natural shape is respected. This choice reduces structural weakness. Cutting stone introduces fractures. Leaving it whole preserves strength. As you rest with this idea, you may notice how patience itself becomes a tool. Waiting allows the land to reveal its limits. Rushing leads to failure. Early builders learned this lesson repeatedly, refining methods through observation rather than instruction. The movement of these stones likely took place over extended periods. Transport may have paused for seasons. Weather influences friction, and wet ground behaves differently than dry. Builders adapted plans accordingly. This flexibility suggests long-term thinking, where completion mattered less than continuity. Megaliths also reflect energy efficiency. Instead of lifting stones fully, builders rolled or slid them, reducing required force. Logs, stones, and earth became simple machines. These methods rely on understanding friction and leverage through direct experience. Knowledge grew from hands-on interaction with materials. There is nothing you need to remember about these techniques. They unfold naturally in the imagination. Once placed, megaliths often remained untouched. They did not require maintenance. Their simplicity ensured longevity. Unlike complex structures, they had few points of failure. This minimalism aligns with principles of durability recognized in modern engineering. Fewer components mean fewer weaknesses. These stones also influence their surroundings subtly. They alter airflow, shade nearby ground, and retain heat. Microclimates form around them. Plants may grow differently at their bases. This interaction integrates stone into local ecosystems, blending human effort with natural processes. From a psychological perspective, large stones create a sense of grounding. Their scale relative to the human body encourages stillness. Standing near them, movement slows. The nervous system responds to mass and stability with calm. This effect likely mattered to early communities as much as practical function. There is comfort in weight that does not move. megaliths often outlast the cultures that placed them. This endurance can feel mysterious, but it follows physical principles. Stone erodes slowly. Human generations pass quickly. When builders chose stone, they chose time. Archaeological studies show that some megaliths were repositioned slightly over generations. Small adjustments corrected settling or tilt. This ongoing care reflects commitment rather than urgency. The work was never truly finished. It simply continued as needed. You may feel your thoughts slow, mirroring this continuity. There is no endpoint required. The placement of these stones also reveals spatial awareness. Sightlines, spacing, and orientation matter. Builders considered how stones related to one another, ensuring balance across space. This visual harmony contributes to structural stability and emotional ease. Even fallen megaliths tell stories. Their positions reveal how forces acted over time. A stone that tips suggests ground shift or erosion. Studying these changes helps scientists understand landscape dynamics. The stones become markers of environmental history. There is nothing heavy in this knowledge. It rests easily. Megaliths demonstrate how humans once measured effort across generations. A stone moved by grandparents might be adjusted by grandchildren. Purpose extended beyond individual lifespan. This long view fosters patience. When time feels abundant, anxiety fades. As you breathe gently, imagine the quiet after work ends for the day. The stone rests. People step back. No celebration is needed. The result speaks through stillness. In modern times, these stones continue to invite pause. Visitors slow down unconsciously. Voices lower. The body responds to scale and weight with respect. This reaction reflects deep-seated sensory processing shaped over thousands of years. There is nothing you need to analyze about this response. It happens naturally. As this chapter settles, the stones remain unchanged by attention. Their quiet persistence suggests not effort, but balance achieved. And as your awareness drifts onward, these grounded forms begin to hint at how stillness gives way to motion again, as paths, tools, and human ingenuity quietly emerge beyond the stone. You unfold a map that feels less like an object and more like a quiet invitation. Its surface is uneven, softened by age, and the lines upon it wander gently rather than commandingly. Nothing here insists on certainty. Coastlines curve loosely. Vast spaces remain open. The map does not claim to know everything. It simply records what was seen and leaves the rest to patience. Ancient maps emerge from careful observation, blended with honest uncertainty. Early map makers watched shorelines from boats, followed rivers on foot, and listened to stories carried by travelers. Without the ability to see land from above, knowledge accumulated slowly, shaped by perspective and memory. What could not be confirmed was not erased. It was left open, allowing the map to breathe. Coastlines on these maps often appear soft and uneven. This reflects how land meets water in reality. Tides rise and fall. Marshes expand and retreat. From ground level, the boundary between land and sea is rarely fixed. Early cartographers captured this fluidity intuitively, recording edges as suggestions rather than strict lines. As you imagine tracing these curves with your finger, notice how the uncertainty feels calm. There is nothing you need to resolve. The map invites wandering, not arrival. Large blank spaces occupy much of the parchment. These areas are not mistakes. They represent honesty. When knowledge ended, openness remained. In scientific terms, this acknowledges limits of data. Rather than filling unknown regions with false precision, map makers preserved absence. The unknown was treated with respect. This practice aligns with careful observation. Accurate mapping requires restraint. Including only what is known prevents error from spreading. Ancient maps demonstrate this principle quietly. They value reliability over completeness. Symbols appear across the surface. Small marks indicate mountains, rivers, settlements, or hazards. These symbols simplify complex landscapes into recognizable forms. The brain responds easily to such abstraction. A line suggests a river. A cluster suggests a city. Meaning arises without detail. You do not need to memorize these symbols. They work even when barely noticed. Maps were often drawn on parchment or animal skin, materials that respond to humidity and touch. Over time, surfaces warp slightly. Lines bend. This physical change mirrors the evolving understanding the maps represent. Knowledge is not fixed. It shifts gently as conditions change. Scale on ancient maps varies. Important areas appear larger, while distant regions shrink. This reflects human perception. What matters most receives the most attention. Rather than mathematical accuracy, these maps prioritize lived relevance. Places frequently visited feel bigger because they occupy more mental space. Light played a role in how maps were used. Candlelight softens contrast. Edges blur. Under such illumination, sharp precision fades and general shapes stand out. Maps became companions for reflection as much as navigation. There is nothing you need to focus on here. Your thoughts can drift like a boat along an uncertain coast. Directions on early maps often align with natural cues rather than fixed orientation. Sunrise, prevailing winds, and familiar landmarks guide interpretation. This reflects embodied navigation. The body senses direction through experience, not abstraction. Some maps include notes written in margins. These comments record observations, warnings, or questions. They remind us that maps were never final. They were working documents, open to revision. Knowledge was shared, not sealed. From a scientific perspective, these maps capture a process rather than a result. They document how understanding grows through accumulation of experience. Each journey adds a line. Each return confirms or adjusts it. Imagination appears gently in areas beyond experience. Shapes hint at land that might exist. These are not fantasies meant to deceive. They represent curiosity extending beyond observation. The mind reaches outward, but does not insist. This balance between observation and imagination reflects healthy cognition. The brain fills gaps cautiously, guided by pattern rather than certainty. Ancient maps embody this mental state. You may feel your breathing slow as you imagine drifting across this parchment. There is no destination required. Maps also reveal cultural priorities. Trade routes receive attention. Waterways are emphasized. Mountains become barriers or markers. These choices reflect how humans interacted with their environment. Mapping becomes a record of relationship, not dominance. As maps were copied by hand, small variations appeared. Lines shift slightly. Names change form. Over time, these variations accumulate. Studying them helps scientists trace information flow between regions. Knowledge moves quietly, shaped by human connection. There is nothing heavy in this movement. It feels natural. Some ancient maps were symbolic rather than navigational. They organized space according to meaning rather than distance. Sacred sites appear central. Edges fade into abstraction. These maps guide understanding rather than travel. This reflects a broader truth. Humans map not only geography, but importance. The mind organizes information based on relevance. Ancient maps make this visible. When you imagine holding such a map, it feels light despite its age. It does not weigh you down with accuracy. It supports gentle orientation. You know roughly where you are, and that is enough. Modern science examines these maps to understand perception. Comparing mapped coastlines to real ones reveals where observation was strongest. Errors highlight limits of travel, not failure. Each distortion tells a story of experience. You do not need to remember these stories. They rest easily in the background. Maps also change as materials age. Ink fades, edges fray. These changes remind us that knowledge requires care to persist. Preservation becomes a quiet responsibility. As your awareness softens, the map begins to feel less like a tool and more like a reflection of curiosity itself. Lines wander, spaces open, nothing insists. And as this chapter comes to rest, the map's open edges seem to invite movement beyond paper, guiding attention toward the quiet paths, tools, and clever solutions humans shaped as they traveled onward into the world. You arrive at a quieter kind of ingenuity here, one that does not announce itself through scale or speed. These are solutions shaped by patience, guided by observation, and refined through repeated use. They do not overwhelm the senses. They simply work again and again without drawing attention to themselves. Long before complex machines existed, people learned to solve practical problems by listening closely to materials. Wood bends in predictable ways. Stone resists pressure but accepts weight. Water flows downward, always seeking the lowest point. Forgotten technologies begin with these simple truths. They are not forgotten because they failed, but because they succeeded so quietly that they blended into daily life. One of the most elegant aspects of these technologies is restraint. Tools were designed to do exactly what was needed, and no more. Excess effort wasted energy. Efficiency mattered not because time was scarce, but because resources were precious. When effort is limited, ingenuity becomes gentle rather than forceful. You can imagine hands shaping a tool slowly, testing it, adjusting it. Each movement teaches something. The tool responds. Over time, small refinements accumulate. Science recognizes this process as iterative learning. Knowledge improves through use, not theory. The forgotten technologies carry this learning within their form. There is nothing you need to understand here. The tools function whether you analyze them or not. Many early technologies relied on gravity. Sloped surfaces guided water, channels carried it to fields or homes without pumps. These systems required careful planning, but once built, they worked silently. Gravity did the labor. The human role was simply to shape the path. This reflects a deep understanding of energy conservation. Instead of creating force, people redirected existing forces. Water already moves. Weight already presses downward. Forgotten technologies succeed by cooperating with nature rather than resisting it. Materials were chosen locally. This reduced transport effort and ensured compatibility with environment. Wood from nearby forests matched climate conditions. Stone from local quarries weathered predictably. Using familiar materials reduced surprises. Science values this predictability. You may notice how calm this approach feels. There is no urgency, only steady alignment with surroundings. Simple machines appear repeatedly. Levers extend strength. Wedges split material efficiently. Wheels reduce friction. These devices amplify effort without complexity. They rely on physical principles that remain constant. Early builders discovered these principles through touch and repetition. The elegance lies in their invisibility. Once understood, they feel obvious. A heavy stone lifts easily with the right leverage. The body senses when force aligns correctly. Learning happens through feeling rather than instruction. Many forgotten technologies also emphasize maintenance over replacement. Tools were repaired, not discarded. This required understanding how materials fail. Cracks form along stress points. Wear appears where friction concentrates. Recognizing these patterns allows timely care. There is nothing demanding in this knowledge. It arrives gradually. In agriculture, simple technologies guided planting and harvesting. Terraces slowed water flow, preventing erosion. Raised beds improved drainage. These methods shaped landscapes gently, enhancing productivity without exhausting soil. Science confirms their effectiveness through modern study. These systems required patience. Terraces took time to build. Benefits appeared slowly, but once established, they lasted generations. This long-term perspective reduced pressure. There was no need for constant innovation. Stability became valuable. The forgotten technologies often balanced precision with flexibility. Channels allowed overflow. Tools tolerated variation. Designs accommodated natural change. This resilience ensured longevity. Rigid systems break. Flexible ones adapt. You may feel your thoughts soften as this principle settles. Adaptation does not require struggle. Heat management offers another example. Early structures used thick walls, orientation, and airflow to regulate temperature. Shade and insulation worked together. No fuel was needed. The building itself moderated comfort by responding to sunlight and wind. This reflects thermal science in action. Materials absorb and release heat at different rates. By choosing and arranging them carefully, people shaped indoor environments quietly. Comfort emerged from design rather than energy input. Sound was also considered. Uncurved surfaces diffuse noise. Narrow passages dampen echoes. These effects create calm spaces naturally. Forgotten technologies include acoustic awareness without measurement. People noticed how spaces felt and adjusted accordingly. There is nothing you need to measure here. Sensation-guided design. Water storage technologies show similar elegance. Containers shaped to reduce evaporation preserved moisture. Underground cisterns maintained cool temperatures. Gravity-fed systems delivered water gently. Each choice reduced effort after construction. Once built, these systems required little attention. They worked whether observed or not. This quiet reliability allowed daily life to flow smoothly. Transportation technologies followed the same principles. Paths curved to follow terrain. Boats matched water conditions. Loads were balanced rather than forced. Movement aligned with environment. Science recognizes that minimizing resistance conserves energy. Forgotten technologies embody this understanding intuitively. They avoid confrontation with natural forces. As you imagine these systems, notice how calm they feel. Nothing rushes, nothing strains. Knowledge passed through demonstration. Children watched elders work. Hands learned alongside eyes. This embodied learning ensured continuity. Techniques survived because they were felt, not memorized. There is nothing you need to remember about this process. It unfolds naturally. Even failure contributed gently. A tool that broke revealed its limits. Adjustments followed. Learning continued. There was no stigma in refinement. Improvement was expected. This attitude fosters patience. When time is abundant, mistakes feel less threatening. Forgotten technologies often disappear, not because they are ineffective, but because louder solutions replace them. Machines promise speed, yet the quiet systems remain embedded in landscapes, still functioning. Modern science rediscovers these technologies and recognizes their efficiency. Studies confirm what experience already showed. Simplicity conserves energy. Alignment reduces wear. As your breathing remains slow, imagine walking through a place shaped by these choices. Water flows calmly. Structures feel cool. Paths invite movement without effort. There is nothing you need to do in this place. The elegance lies not in novelty, but in harmony. Tools and systems fade into background, supporting life without demanding attention. As this chapter settles, these quiet solutions continue working unseen. And as your awareness drifts onward, their gentle ingenuity opens naturally into spaces where ritual, rest, and human presence gather softly together. You step into places shaped not for movement, but for pause. The air feels different here, as though sound itself has learned to slow down. Stone walls, open courtyards, quiet chambers, and carefully chosen clearings invite the body to soften its pace. These spaces do not demand belief. They simply offer stillness. Across cultures and landscapes, humans have created environments meant to quiet the mind. Some are enclosed, others open to the sky. What they share is intention. These spaces are set apart from daily activity, not by barriers, but by design. Narrow entrances, gradual transitions, and changes in light guide the nervous system gently inward. Science shows that environment influences mental state. Lower light reduces stimulation. Enclosed spaces soften sound. Repetition of form calms visual processing. Ritual spaces use these principles intuitively. They are designed to reduce sensory load, allowing attention to settle naturally. You may notice your breathing deepen as you imagine standing within such a space. There is nothing you need to perform here. Stone is often chosen for these environments because of how it interacts with sound and temperature. Thick walls absorb echoes. Surfaces remain cool and steady. This physical stability translates into emotional steadiness. The body responds to predictable conditions with relaxation. Spatial proportions matter. Many ritual spaces are neither too large nor too small. This balance avoids overwhelm while preventing confinement. The human body feels most at ease in spaces that mirror its own scale. Early builders sensed this through experience, shaping rooms that feel quietly supportive. Light enters deliberately. Openings frame the sky or admit sunlight at specific angles. This creates gentle variation without glare. Shadows move slowly across surfaces, reminding observers of time's passage without urgency. There is no need to track these changes. They unfold whether noticed or not. Ritual spaces often separate inner and outer worlds through thresholds. Steps, doorways, or shifts in ground texture mark transition. Crossing these boundaries signals the body to adjust. Modern neuroscience recognizes this effect. Clear transitions help the brain switch states more easily. Sound behaves differently inside these places. Footsteps soften. Voices lower. This is partly acoustic and partly social. When sound diminishes, people instinctively speak more quietly. The environment teaches behavior without instruction. Silence here is not empty. It is full of subtle sensations. Air moves gently. Temperature remains steady. The body becomes aware of itself without pressure. Many ritual spaces align with natural elements. Trees, water, stone, and sky become part of the experience. These elements engage innate sensory responses. Water calms through rhythm. Trees filter light. Open sky expands perception. You do not need to interpret any of this. Your body already understands. Archaeological evidence shows that such spaces were revisited repeatedly over long periods. Wear patterns reveal where people stood, sat, or walked. This repetition created familiarity. Familiar spaces feel safe. Safety allows rest. These places were not used constantly. Their value lay in separation. By limiting access, communities preserved their quiet quality. Scarcity of use maintained stillness. From a scientific perspective, this reflects stimulus control. Limiting activity prevents sensory overload. Ritual spaces function as early environments for regulation. Materials were chosen with care. Smooth surfaces invite touch. Rough surfaces discourage movement. Temperature differences mark zones within a space. Each choice guides behavior gently. There is nothing you need to remember about these details. They work quietly. In open ritual spaces, such as stone circles or clearings, spacing creates rhythm. Distances between elements allow the eye to rest. Movement becomes slower. The horizon remains visible, grounding perception. These designs reflect understanding of human attention. Too much complexity overwhelms. Too little engages boredom. Balance sustains calm focus. Ritual spaces also reflect social coordination. When people gather quietly together, breathing and posture tend to synchronize. This phenomenon, observed scientifically, promotes emotional alignment. Shared stillness becomes collective regulation. You may feel this imagined calm spreading gently. Some spaces emphasize verticality. Tall walls or pillars draw the gaze upward. This shifts attention away from immediate concerns. Others emphasize horizontality, encouraging grounding. Both approaches influence bodily orientation. There is no hierarchy here. Different forms serve different needs. Time behaves differently in these environments. Without clocks or activity cues, perception slows, and the brain relies on internal rhythms. This encourages introspection and rest. Even when ceremonies occurred, they often followed predictable patterns. Repetition reduces uncertainty. Predictable sequences lower stress responses. Ritual becomes soothing through familiarity. You do not need to know what rituals took place. The space itself carries the effect. Many ritual spaces show signs of careful maintenance. Repairs were made without altering form. This preservation reflects respect for atmosphere rather than novelty. When modern researchers study these sites, they note how intact environments influence mood even today. Visitors report calm without instruction. This response is consistent across cultures. Science explains this through sensory processing. Reduced noise, stable temperature, and balanced proportions support parasympathetic nervous activity. The body rests more easily. There is nothing mystical required for this effect. Some ritual spaces are intentionally simple. Few objects, open floors. This minimalism reduces cognitive load. The mind does not need to categorize or decide. Other spaces include repeated motifs. Patterns provide gentle engagement. The brain recognizes repetition as safe. You can allow these impressions to drift through you. Ritual spaces also teach patience. Entry is slow, movement is deliberate, exits are gradual. This pacing encourages mindfulness before the word existed. Children likely learned these rhythms by observation. Quiet was modeled, not enforced. There is no urgency in this learning. As you imagine leaving such a space, the outside world feels slightly louder, brighter. This contrast highlights the calm within. The memory lingers, offering regulation beyond the moment. Ritual spaces remind us that humans have long valued rest as much as action. Stillness was designed, protected, and shared. As this chapter settles, the quiet remains. And from this stillness, attention begins to drift toward the objects and traces left behind in these spaces. Small artifacts resting softly where hands once placed them, waiting calmly to be noticed next. You encounter objects resting quietly, separated from the lives that once surrounded them. They are small enough to hold, sometimes worn smooth by touch, sometimes sharp with unfinished edges. These artifacts do not announce their purpose. They wait, complete in their silence, offering presence rather than explanation. Across ancient sites, objects are often found without clear context. A tool appears far from where it might have been used. A fragment lies alone, its companions long dissolved into soil. Science teaches that context gives meaning, yet it also teaches patience. When context is missing, restraint becomes essential. Rather than filling gaps with certainty, researchers allow questions to remain open. This openness is not failure, it is care. Artifacts are shaped by hands responding to need. A vessel curves to hold liquid, a blade narrows to cut. These functional qualities can be observed directly, where patterns reveal repeated motion. Polished edges suggest frequent contact. Even without knowing who used an object, the object itself records interaction through physical change. You do not need to imagine the person who held it. The marks are enough. Thus, materials tell their own stories. Stone fractures in predictable ways. Clay hardens when heated. Metals oxidize slowly when exposed to air. These processes follow natural laws. By studying them, scientists learn how objects were made, even when cultural details fade. Knowledge emerges from material behavior rather than narrative. There is nothing you need to solve here. The object rests easily within uncertainty. Some artifacts appear deliberately placed, others seem discarded. This difference matters, but not always in clear ways. An object left behind may signal routine, accident, or transition. Without surrounding evidence, interpretation remains gentle. Archaeology values caution. Multiple possibilities coexist without urgency to choose. From a psychological perspective, not knowing can be calming. The mind often seeks closure, but it also responds positively to openness when no action is required. These artifacts invite that restful state. They ask nothing. They simply exist. You may notice your breathing slow as you sit with this idea. Fragments play an important role. Broken pieces reveal manufacturing techniques. A shard shows thickness, texture, and composition. Scientists examine these qualities to infer process. Even incomplete objects contribute knowledge without needing a complete story. This approach reflects scientific humility. Understanding grows through accumulation, not assumption. Some artifacts are clearly worn by repeated use. Handles fit the shape of a hand. Surfaces smooth where fingers rested. This wear connects object to body. It suggests rhythm, habit, and daily life. The specifics may be lost, but the pattern remains. You do not need to imagine routines. The object already carries them quietly. Other artifacts show little wear. They may have been ceremonial, experimental, or newly made. Without context, certainty fades, yet the lack of wear itself becomes information. Absence speaks softly. Time affects objects differently. Organic materials decay faster. Stone and metal endure. This uneven survival shapes what is found. The archaeological record is incomplete by nature. Recognizing this prevents over-interpretation. There is comfort in this incompleteness. It removes pressure to reconstruct everything. When artifacts are uncovered, their position matters. Orientation, depth, and surrounding materials offer clues. Yet disturbance over centuries complicates interpretation. Soil shifts. Water moves objects. Roots displace fragments. The earth rearranges gently but persistently. Science accounts for this movement. It considers post-depositional change. Objects may not rest where they were last used. This awareness encourages patience. Some artifacts feel familiar even without explanation. A bowl resembles a bowl. A tool resembles a tool. This recognition arises from shared human experience. Across cultures, similar needs produce similar forms. Convergence does not require connection. You may feel a sense of quiet recognition here. Artifacts without stories also highlight limits of language. Words depend on shared reference. When reference disappears, silence remains. Objects outlast words, but they do not replace them. They offer texture instead of narrative. This texture can be enough. Modern researchers document artifacts carefully, recording measurements, materials, and condition. This process preserves information without forcing interpretation. Data remains available for future understanding. Science values this openness to revision. There is nothing hurried in this work. Artifacts sometimes raise more questions than answers. A unique object resists classification. Rather than forcing it into categories, scientists allow it to stand alone. Singular finds expand awareness of variation. Variation is calming when accepted. Some objects show signs of repair, cracks filled, edges reshaped. These traces suggest care and continuity. Repair extends usefulness and reflects resource awareness. Even without knowing the owner, the act of repair communicates value. You do not need to assign emotion to this care. It is visible in form. Artifacts also remind us of scale. A small bead represents hours of labor. A simple tool embodies generations of refinement. The object compresses time into matter. Holding it connects moments separated by centuries, quietly. Your thoughts can drift with this compression. Museums display artifacts behind glass to protect them. This separation preserves material but removes tactile connection. Science prioritizes preservation over interaction. This choice reflects respect for fragility. Yet even without touch, presence remains. Artifacts left untold teach restraint. They show that knowledge does not require completion. Partial understanding can still be meaningful. The human mind can rest within uncertainty when no action is demanded. There is nothing you need to remember from this chapter. As you imagine these objects returning to stillness, they seem content to remain as they are. They do not insist on stories. They do not ask to be known fully. And as this quiet acceptance settles, attention begins to drift outward again, toward the broader patterns of cultures and lives that once surrounded these objects, echoing softly in fragments and traces yet to come. You move gently into this chapter, where entire cultures are known not through stories told aloud, but through quiet traces left behind. There is no sense of disappearance here, no sudden ending. Instead, there is continuity, like a river that shifts course but never truly stops flowing. Civilizations do not vanish all at once. They thin, spread, transform, and settle into the land itself. Across the world, archaeologists encounter fragments rather than complete pictures. A foundation without walls. A road without travelers. A pattern in soil where homes once stood. Science approaches these traces patiently, understanding that absence is not emptiness. What remains is often enough to reveal how people lived, adapted, and organized their worlds. Human societies are shaped by environment. Climate shifts slowly, influencing water availability, soil fertility, and migration patterns. When conditions change, communities respond. They relocate, merge, or reorganize. From a scientific perspective, this is not collapse but adaptation. Cultural forms adjust just as ecosystems do. You can allow this idea to settle without effort. There is nothing you need to resolve. Vanished civilizations often leave behind infrastructure that outlasts daily life. Roads guide movement long after voices fade. Terraces shape hillsides for centuries. Irrigation channels continue to influence vegetation patterns. These structures integrate into the landscape, becoming part of ongoing systems rather than relics of failure. Material culture offers further continuity. Pottery styles evolve gradually. Tool designs adapt incrementally. Even when names and languages change, functional knowledge persists. This slow evolution reflects cumulative learning passed through generations, often unnoticed. There is comfort in this gradual change. Nothing here ends abruptly. Genetic studies add another layer of understanding. Populations rarely disappear entirely. People move, intermarry, and carry biological continuity forward. Modern communities often share ancestry with those who lived in the same regions long ago. The line between past and present softens. You may feel a quiet sense of connection as this realization unfolds. Written records sometimes stop suddenly, but material evidence continues. Writing depends on systems that require maintenance. When priorities shift, writing may pause while daily practices continue. Silence in records does not mean silence in life. Science treats this gap carefully. It looks for indirect evidence. Changes in diet appear in bones. Shifts in trade show in material composition. Patterns emerge without narrative. There is nothing you need to remember about these methods. They work quietly. Architecture reveals continuity as well. Building techniques are passed down, adapted to new needs. A wall rebuilt in a familiar style carries memory forward without words. This persistence reflects embodied knowledge. Hands remember what texts forget. Some civilizations spread rather than disappear. Cultural elements travel through exchange. Art motifs appear far from their origin. Technologies move with people. Influence diffuses gently, blending rather than replacing. This diffusion feels calm, like overlapping waves. Even when cities empty, surrounding rural areas often remain inhabited. Life shifts outward. Centralized structures dissolve, but community persists. Archaeological surveys reveal this redistribution through scattered dwellings and altered land use. You can imagine lights dimming in one place and brightening softly in another. Environmental records help explain these shifts. Tree rings show drought cycles. Sediment layers reveal floods. Ice cores record atmospheric change. These natural archives place human adaptation within broader planetary rhythms. Civilizations respond to forces larger than themselves, not through drama, but through adjustment. There is nothing threatening in this scale. It unfolds slowly. Trade networks also demonstrate continuity. When one route becomes less viable, another emerges. Goods find new paths. Exchange persists because connection matters. Materials carry stories of movement, even when people do not. From a scientific perspective, this resilience reflects network behavior. Distributed systems adapt more easily than centralized ones. Early societies learned this through experience rather than theory. You may notice how restful this understanding feels. Cultural practices leave subtle marks. Burial styles shift. Food preparation changes. These transitions reflect evolving values, not disappearance. Each generation shapes traditions slightly differently, now responding to new conditions. Loss is not the focus here. Transformation is. Languages evolve similarly. Words change form. Sounds shift. Meanings adapt. Linguistic traces persist in place names, even when languages fade. These names anchor memory in landscape. There is no urgency in this fading. It happens at the pace of conversation across centuries. Scientific dating techniques reveal overlapping timelines. New cultures emerge before older ones fully dissolve. Coexistence replaces replacement. This overlap fosters exchange rather than erasure. You can rest within this overlap. Artifacts from vanished civilizations often appear alongside newer materials. Layers blend. Distinctions soften. This blending challenges simple narratives. Science embraces complexity, allowing multiple stories to exist simultaneously. Now there is nothing you need to simplify. Even beliefs continue in altered forms. Rituals adapt. Symbols reappear with new meanings. Sacred spaces are reused. Continuity hides within change. Human memory works this way as well. Experiences reshape themselves over time, retaining feeling even as details shift. You may feel your breathing deepen as this parallel settles. The idea of vanishing often reflects perspective rather than reality. When observers leave, attention shifts. What remains continues quietly. Civilizations do not need witnesses to exist. Science recognizes this humility. Observation captures moments, not totality. When modern people encounter ruins, they often project endings. Yet evidence suggests ongoing life beyond visible structures. Fields cultivated, paths walked, homes rebuilt elsewhere. This understanding removes drama. It replaces it with patience. As you imagine standing among traces of the past, the ground beneath you feels steady. It has supported countless lives, one after another. Each layer adds depth, not finality. There is nothing you need to mourn here. Civilizations echo through practices still in use. Farming techniques, craft methods, social patterns. These echoes shape the present quietly. You participate in them without knowing. This participation is gentle, unremarkable, and continuous. Scientific study of vanished civilizations emphasizes connection over separation. Humans adapt. Systems change. Life continues. You can allow this calm assurance to settle. As this chapter begins to rest, the echoes do not fade. They soften, blending into the steady hum of human continuity. And as your awareness drifts onward, these traces begin to open into deeper stretches of time itself, where centuries blur and timelines gently expand, waiting to be felt rather than counted. You begin to notice time behaving differently here, as though its edges are loosening. Moments no longer line up in a strict sequence. Instead, they begin to overlap and blur, like ripples spreading gently across still water. In this space, thousands of years can feel like a single breath, and a single breath can feel wide and complete. Human experience often treats time as a straight path, moving from past to present to future. Yet science reveals a more layered reality. Geological processes unfold over spans so long they resist everyday comparison. Mountains rise and wear away. Rivers carve valleys grain by grain. These changes do not hurry. They simply continue, indifferent to clocks and calendars. When you imagine this scale, the body often relaxes. Urgency dissolves. Problems shrink. The nervous system responds to extended timelines with perspective. What feels heavy in short time becomes lighter when seen within long duration. Archaeological layers make this visible. Soil accumulates slowly, forming distinct bands over centuries. Each layer holds traces of activity, climate, and life. When scientists study these layers, they do not rush through them. They read downward patiently, allowing time to reveal itself gradually. You do not need to picture exact dates. The feeling of depth is enough. Deep time invites rest because it removes pressure. There is no deadline in a process that spans millennia. Even dramatic changes, such as climate shifts, need to unfold gradually enough for life to respond. Adaptation replaces reaction. This slow unfolding is reflected in biological rhythms as well. Species evolve over long spans through small variations. Each generation differs only slightly from the last. Accumulated over time, these differences create diversity without urgency. You may notice how calm this process feels. Nothing leaps forward, everything flows. Human timelines, when placed within this context, soften too. Civilizations rise and adapt. Technologies appear, spread, and transform. These changes feel rapid only when viewed in isolation. Within deep time, they are gentle pulses. Science often uses models to understand long-term change. These models average out short-term noise, revealing underlying trends. This smoothing mirrors what you feel now. Details fade, patterns remain. There is nothing you need to track or remember. Memory itself behaves differently across time. The brain compresses long periods into simple impressions. Childhood may feel like a blur, while a recent hour feels detailed. This compression helps the mind manage information. It also allows rest. Not every moment needs equal weight. Deep time offers this same compression on a planetary scale. Rocks record time through layers, crystals, and decay. Radioactive elements change at steady rates, providing natural clocks. These processes operate quietly, unaffected by observation. They mark time without awareness. You can imagine these clocks ticking slowly, far beneath attention. Trees offer another perspective. Rings form yearly, each one thin, each one patient. Drought leaves narrow marks. Abundance leaves wider ones. Together, they create a continuous record without narrative. Science reads these rings gently, understanding past conditions without judgment. Your breathing can match this rhythm, in and out, slow and steady. When time stretches, cause and effect soften. Events influence one another across long distances and durations. A small change today may matter centuries later. This awareness encourages care rather than haste. There is nothing you need to act on now. Awareness alone is enough. Deep time also reframes endings. Nothing truly stops. It changes form. Materials cycle. Energy moves. Even decay becomes creation for something else. This continuity removes finality. From a scientific perspective, this is conservation. Matter and energy persist, transforming rather than disappearing. This principle applies at every scale. You may feel comfort in this persistence. Human calendars divide time for convenience. Days, months, years help organize activity. Deep time ignores these divisions. It flows beneath them, steady and indifferent. When you rest within this flow, anxiety often eases. The body senses when it is allowed to slow. Fossils capture moments suspended within deep time. An organism preserved mid-motion becomes a bridge between eras. This preservation does not interrupt time. It simply pauses one expression within it. Science studies these pauses patiently, extracting information without rushing interpretation. Even the stars follow deep timelines. Light travels vast distances, arriving long after it is emitted. When you look upward, you see the past layered across the sky. This realization stretches perception gently. You do not need to contemplate distances. The feeling of depth is enough. Deep time invites humility. Human lifespans are brief yet meaningful. Each life contributes to ongoing patterns. This contribution does not need recognition to matter. Rest comes from releasing the need for immediacy. As you settle into this perspective, the sense of linear progression loosens further. Past, present, and future feel less separate. They overlap in a continuous field of becoming. There is nothing you need to solve within this field. Scientific understanding grows similarly. Knowledge accumulates gradually. Old ideas are refined, not erased. Progress is layered rather than abrupt. This gentleness applies inward as well. Your thoughts can drift without direction. Time can expand around them. As this chapter quiets, deep time does not end. It simply continues, carrying everything softly forward. And within this wide stillness, attention begins to turn toward the natural world itself, where landscapes and living systems move through time together, waiting calmly to be explored next. You move gently into landscapes where nature and human memory overlap so seamlessly that they feel like a single, continuous presence. Here, caves open quietly in hillsides, rock formations rise with familiar silhouettes, and valleys carry echoes shaped by wind and water. These places are not dramatic stages. They are calm companions, shaping thought through repeated encounter rather than explanation. Caves appear again and again in the archaeological record, not because they demanded attention, but because they offered shelter, consistency, and predictability. Temperature remains stable within stone. Sound softens. Light fades gradually rather than abruptly. From a scientific perspective, these qualities reduce environmental stress. Early humans noticed this through experience. Returning to caves felt reassuring, and memory formed naturally around that comfort. Over time, repeated use layered meaning onto these spaces. Marks appeared on walls, fires left traces, footpaths wore into stone floors. None of this required storytelling. Memory accumulated through presence. The cave itself became a record, holding evidence of lives lived quietly within it. You do not need to imagine specific events. The atmosphere alone is enough. Rock formations outside caves also shaped human attention. Tall stones, balanced shapes, and unusual patterns draw the eye because the brain is tuned to notice variation in familiar landscapes. This sensitivity helps with navigation and survival. When a formation stands out, it becomes a landmark. Over generations, landmarks anchor memory without effort. Science shows that spatial memory relies heavily on consistent reference points. Natural formations serve this role effortlessly. They do not move. They do not change quickly. They offer reliability in environments that otherwise shift with seasons. Valleys and river bends become part of lived memory in similar ways. Water follows predictable paths, carving channels slowly. Humans follow these channels too, settling nearby, returning again and again. Over time, landscapes and routines intertwine. The land shapes behavior. Behavior reinforces memory. There is nothing you need to hold on to here. These patterns exist whether noticed or not. Some natural features gained layered significance through repeated gathering. Clearings, springs, and overlooks became meeting points. From a scientific perspective, these locations optimize resources. Water collects, visibility increases, movement converges. Memory grows naturally around usefulness. As groups returned, stories likely formed, but the physical place came first. Memory attaches to environment before narrative attaches to memory. Caves also preserve sound in distinctive ways. Echoes linger briefly, then fade. This acoustic quality alters perception. Voices feel contained. Silence feels deeper. Neuroscience shows that sound environment influences emotional state. Quieter, enclosed acoustics promote calm. Early humans experienced this directly. They did not analyze it. They simply returned. Stone surfaces record touch. Oils from hands darken rock over time. Smooth areas indicate repeated contact. These subtle changes reveal interaction across generations. Memory leaves physical traces, even without intention. You may feel your breathing slow as you imagine standing in such a place. Natural formations often inspired orientation toward the sky. Cave openings frame light. Rock arches create windows. These shapes draw attention outward, connecting ground and horizon. The brain responds positively to framed views. They organize perception, reducing visual complexity. This organization supports calm awareness. Some landscapes hold fossils embedded in stone. Long before science named them, people noticed these shapes. They appeared as reminders that the land itself carried history. Fossils connect surface experience with deep time, blending natural process and human curiosity. You do not need to interpret these shapes. Noticing is enough. Natural color patterns also influence memory. Iron-rich stone appears warm. Limestone reflects light softly. Color variation helps distinguish places, strengthening spatial recall. Science confirms that color cues support memory formation. Paths form where people walk repeatedly. Soil compacts. Vegetation changes. These trails become part of landscape memory. Even after use fades, the path often remains visible. Movement leaves quiet records. There is nothing urgent about these traces. They persist gently. In some regions, unusual formations result from erosion. Wind and water remove material unevenly, leaving shapes that feel intentional despite being natural. Humans are drawn to these forms because the brain seeks pattern. This tendency is automatic, not imaginative. Science calls this pattern recognition. It operates continuously, shaping perception. When people notice patterns in nature, they remember them more easily. Memory attaches to shape. Over time, these remembered shapes become reference points for orientation and storytelling, even when stories are never written. Caves also preserve climate records. Mineral deposits grow slowly, layer by layer. Their structure reflects changes in temperature and moisture. Long before this was understood scientifically, the stability of these formations signaled continuity. They grew quietly, unaffected by daily change. There is comfort in this steadiness. Natural landmarks often outlast human structures. Wood decays, stone remains. Landscapes carry memory longer than architecture. This endurance ensures continuity even as cultures shift. You may notice how gentle this continuity feels. Human memory itself works similarly. Experiences compress into impressions. Details fade. Feelings remain. Nature mirrors this process. Specific events dissolve. Patterns persist. From a scientific perspective, this alignment reduces cognitive load. Remembering patterns requires less effort than remembering detail. Landscapes support this natural efficiency. There is nothing you need to remember precisely. Water features deepen this effect. Springs emerge reliably. Pools reflect sky. Rivers murmur consistently. Sound and movement reinforce presence. While the nervous system responds with relaxation to rhythmic stimuli. Early humans gravitated toward these features naturally. Over generations, natural places accumulate layers of association. Each visit adds familiarity. Familiarity breeds safety. Safety supports rest. You may feel this imagined safety settling into your body. Natural mysteries do not require explanation to be meaningful. A cave can be comforting without being understood. A formation can be remembered without being named. Science respects this. Observation does not always lead to definition. Sometimes it leads to acceptance. As your awareness drifts through these spaces, boundaries soften. Nature and memory overlap. The land becomes a quiet archive, holding traces of attention rather than answers. There is nothing you need to solve within this archive. As this chapter comes to rest, these landscapes remain unchanged by observation. And as their quiet presence lingers, attention begins to widen once more, turning gently toward the unanswered questions that remain open, waiting softly beyond certainty. You arrive now at a place where questions rest without urgency. They are not puzzles waiting to be solved, and they do not lean forward demanding attention. They sit quietly, like stones warmed by the sun, complete in their stillness. Here, curiosity slows down and becomes something gentler, something closer to rest than to effort. Science often begins with questions, yet it does not always end with answers. In many areas of ancient study, uncertainty remains not because of failure, but because evidence is incomplete by nature. Time erodes materials. Context fades. Signals blur. Instead of forcing conclusions, careful research allows space to remain open. This openness is a strength, not a weakness. You do not need to wonder actively here. The questions are already doing their quiet work. Some ancient structures resist simple explanation. Their scale, placement, or construction methods invite reflection rather than resolution. Scientists examine materials, alignments, and environmental factors, narrowing possibilities without insisting on certainty. Multiple interpretations coexist, each held lightly. This approach mirrors how the human mind relaxes. When there is no demand to decide, the nervous system settles. Curiosity becomes passive, observational, and calm. Unanswered questions also appear in patterns of migration and settlement. Why did communities move when they did? Why did certain practices change while others remained? Environmental data offers clues, but not final narratives. Climate shifts, resource availability, and social dynamics intertwine in complex ways. Complexity does not require tension. It simply exists. In archaeology, gaps in the record are expected. Organic materials decay, written records disappear. What survives represents only a fraction of lived experience. Science acknowledges this incompleteness openly. Absence is treated as information, not as a problem to eliminate. You may notice how restful it feels to allow gaps to remain. Symbols and markings often raise more questions than answers. Some appear unique, without parallels elsewhere. Others resemble known forms, but differ subtly. Researchers document these differences carefully, resisting the urge to categorize prematurely. Now, observation precedes interpretation. This patience reflects respect for uncertainty. Even advanced scientific tools do not remove all ambiguity. Imaging, chemical analysis, and modeling reveal detail, but they also expose complexity. The deeper the examination, the more layers appear. Knowledge expands outward rather than closing inward. There is no rush to reach the edge. Questions about intention often remain open. Why a structure was built, why a symbol was repeated, why a location was chosen. Without written explanation, intention must be inferred cautiously. Science favors probability over certainty in these cases. Probability allows flexibility. It does not lock understanding into rigid frames. From a psychological perspective, unanswered questions can feel uncomfortable when action is required. But when no action is needed, they can feel soothing. The mind releases control, attention softens, wonder replaces analysis. You can feel this shift now. Ancient technologies sometimes leave traces without explanation. Tools appear whose specific use is unclear. Designs suggest multiple functions. Rather than forcing classification, scientists allow these objects to remain ambiguous. Over time, new discoveries may clarify, or they may not. Both outcomes are acceptable. In natural sciences, similar openness exists. Geological formations raise questions about timing and process. Biological patterns prompt inquiry without immediate resolution. Science progresses by holding questions gently, revisiting them as evidence accumulates. This long view reduces urgency. Uncertainty also protects against error. By acknowledging what is not known, researchers avoid misleading conclusions. This restraint preserves integrity. Knowledge remains adaptable, ready to adjust as understanding grows. There is nothing you need to decide here. Questions that remain open often inspire future observation. They guide attention without directing it forcefully. Like a path that fades into distance, they invite exploration without obligation. This invitation is quiet. In ancient studies, some questions persist across generations of researchers. Each adds perspective without closing the inquiry. This continuity reflects shared curiosity rather than unresolved tension. Curiosity can be gentle when time is abundant. You may notice your breathing slowing further as this idea settles. There is no endpoint required. Open questions also highlight the limits of perspective. Modern observers view the past through contemporary lenses. Acknowledging uncertainty honors difference. It prevents projection of present values onto ancient lives. This humility is calming. Even in daily life, not everything needs explanation to be meaningful. Experiences can be felt without analysis. The same is true of ancient mysteries. Presence does not depend on understanding. Science supports this acceptance. Observation alone contributes value. Some questions remain open because they are rooted in subjective experience. How a space felt, what a gathering meant emotionally. These dimensions leave few physical traces. Rather than inventing answers, researchers allow silence. Silence holds space. The brain responds positively to unresolved patterns when they are framed without threat. This response encourages relaxation rather than vigilance. Wonder becomes a resting state. You are allowed to rest here. As this chapter unfolds, questions drift like clouds across a wide sky. They change shape, then thin, then pass. None demand attention. None require follow-up. There is nothing you need to remember. Open questions also connect disciplines. Archaeology, geology, anthropology, and biology intersect. Each offers partial insight. Together, they form a broader understanding without closure. This collaboration values process over product. Process is where calm resides. In the study of deep time, certainty is rare. Models update. Interpretations evolve. This fluidity prevents stagnation. Knowledge remains alive. Life itself behaves this way. Growth continues without final answers. As your awareness softens, unanswered questions feel less like gaps and more like breathing space. They allow the mind to stretch, then rest. There is no tension here. Science teaches that not knowing is part of knowing. Curiosity does not always move forward. Sometimes it settles, becoming quiet appreciation. You can allow that appreciation now. As this chapter gently comes to rest, the questions remain, unchanged and untroubled. And within this calm openness, the journey begins to slow toward its final stillness, where curiosity fades into rest and the mind prepares to drift peacefully onward. You arrive at the closing stretch of this gentle journey, where curiosity no longer leans forward, but settles beside you. It feels different here, softer, less like a question and more like a presence that keeps you company without asking anything in return. Curiosity does not disappear. It simply changes its posture, resting instead of reaching. From a scientific perspective, curiosity is a steady trait of the human mind. It begins early, not as a hunger for answers, but as a quiet sensitivity to patterns, changes, and sensations. Infants observe before they explore. They watch light move, they notice sound. This calm observation is curiosity in its earliest, most restful form. As people grow, curiosity often becomes goal-oriented. Questions seek outcomes. Understanding becomes something to acquire. Yet beneath this active phase, the original quiet curiosity remains. It waits patiently for moments when effort fades and attention softens. Across history, curiosity has taken many shapes. Sometimes it builds tools, sometimes it traces maps, sometimes it listens. These science shows that curiosity does not always lead to action. It can also lead to stillness, where observation alone satisfies the mind's need to connect. You do not need to follow any thread here. Curiosity can simply rest. In the study of the past, curiosity often ends without closure. Excavations pause. Research concludes without final answers. Yet the process itself remains valuable. Science recognizes that inquiry does not require completion to be meaningful. The act of wondering shapes understanding, even when conclusions remain open. This principle extends inward. Your own curiosity does not need to resolve. It can settle into awareness, noticing without seeking. Neuroscience suggests that the brain shifts into a calmer state when curiosity is satisfied by presence rather than outcome. Dopamine responses soften, attention widens, and the nervous system relaxes. Wonder becomes less stimulating and more soothing. You may feel this shift now. Human curiosity has always adapted to available conditions. When environments were uncertain, curiosity focused on survival. When conditions stabilized, it turned toward reflection. In moments of safety, curiosity becomes gentle, exploratory without urgency. This gentleness appears in how people observe nature, watching clouds drift, listening to water move. These acts involve curiosity without purpose. They engage the mind without demanding effort. Science confirms the restorative effect of this state. Passive attention allows mental fatigue to ease. Thought slows naturally. Curiosity also persists across generations. Knowledge is shared, refined, and reshaped. No single person carries the whole story. Each contributes a fragment. Over time, curiosity becomes collective, moving forward even as individuals rest. There is comfort in this continuity. You do not need to hold everything. In ancient contexts, curiosity often coexisted with acceptance. People observed natural cycles without attempting to control them. They noticed patterns and adjusted behavior rather than demanding explanation. This balance reduced tension. Modern science, despite its tools, still relies on this balance. Observation precedes interpretation. Data is gathered patiently. Questions are revisited rather than rushed. Curiosity thrives when time feels abundant. You may notice how wide this perspective feels. The mind expands gently, then relaxes within that space. Curiosity does not vanish at the end of a journey. It shifts inward, becoming awareness of the present moment. Sensations come forward. Breath becomes noticeable. The body signals safety through stillness. This inward curiosity is deeply calming. It asks nothing of memory or imagination. It rests in experience. Throughout this journey, curiosity has guided attention across stones, symbols, landscapes, and time. Now it gathers these impressions softly, without sorting or storing them. Integration happens quietly. Science describes this as consolidation. The brain weaves experiences together during rest. Sleep deepens this process, allowing understanding to settle without conscious effort. You do not need to assist this process. It unfolds on its own. Curiosity also prepares the mind for rest by releasing the need to monitor. When there is nothing left to seek, vigilance fades. Muscles soften, thoughts slow. This is not an ending. It is a continuation in a different form. Even as you drift towards sleep, curiosity remains present, observing dreams, sensations, and shifts in awareness. It no longer asks questions, it witnesses. From a biological perspective, this witnessing supports restoration. The brain transitions through stages of sleep, each serving maintenance and renewal. Curiosity does not interrupt this flow. It becomes part of it. You can trust this process. Across cultures, the end of a journey is often marked by gratitude rather than conclusion. Gratitude acknowledges experience without holding onto it. This attitude aligns with rest. You may feel a quiet appreciation for the path you have taken without needing to revisit it. Curiosity, in its calmest form, is simply openness. Openness to what is present. Openness to rest. Openness to letting go. Now, there is nothing you need to decide now. As awareness narrows, the world feels wide and gentle at the same time. Thoughts drift more slowly. Sensations soften. The mind prepares to release its hold. Curiosity remains, but it no longer leads. It follows quietly into stillness. You are allowed to rest here. As this journey gently comes to a close, notice how wide and still the world feels. So many lives unfolding quietly, whether we see them or not. You don't need to keep their names or stories. they've already done their work. If you enjoy these slow explorations, you can support the channel in any small way that feels natural, so others can find this calm too. But right now, there is nothing to decide and nowhere to go. Let your thoughts soften, your muscles relax, and the night carry you onward, one peaceful breath at a time.